Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's feeling ready to learn and engage with our colleagues from across the country that are working to promote the local interest in communications. Again, I want to thank MACTA and Jody Miller, Mike Reardon for their wonderful welcome to us in St. Paul. And pretty soon I'm here to introduce the person who's going to give us the official welcome to St. Paul. And of course, I'm talking about the Honorable Mayor Chris Coleman. Mayor Coleman took office as St. Paul's mayor in 2005 after several years as a city council member, community and neighborhood leader. Immediately, Mayor Coleman set forth initiatives to make St. Paul the most livable city in America. His priorities include working to close the achievement gap, creating sustainable and responsible budgets, and investing in the infrastructure of St. Paul. Mayor Coleman has achieved many of his goals, advocating for education and public safety, and being instrumental in championing the Green Line, the Central Corridor light rail line, the largest infrastructure project ever undertaken in the state of Minnesota. I did not know that. These efforts and initiative are all accomplished with sound fiscal management in mind and guided by a passion for the city of St. Paul. Under Mayor Coleman's terms, St. Paul's downtown has seen a revitalization. As light rail construction has progressed and more restaurants and entertainment venues, some of the TOA members discovered this for themselves last night, have moved, and demand for housing has increased and exponentially, and downtown's vibrant culture has grown. Mayor Coleman's top priority has always remained the safety of all residents and visitors to St. Paul. He is committed to building world-class departments that set the standard for service to residents and community. Mayor Coleman continues to invest in emergency personnel and training, as well as improved technology to assist them in keeping our communities safe. And by the way, I should finally mention that Mayor Coleman is currently the president of the National League of Cities, and of course, the TOA works very closely with the National League of Cities and other national organizations to promote and advance our local interest in communications. So with that introduction, please join me in welcoming Mayor Coleman.
Good morning, everyone. This is like church. You're all kind of back towards the back. Are you going to sneak out early right after communion? Good to see you all here, and thank you, Tony, for bringing your Seattle weather to St. Paul. If you had been here, the problem with St. Paul is it's really lovely 90% of the time, but people have this image that it's always cold and snowy, and so we don't have snow for you today. We have a little bit of a chill in the air, especially compared to this past weekend, which was one of the most glorious, beautiful weekends in the history of the world. But you're starting to see the fall color. And the nice thing about this is the reason why it's a little cooler this week is we've turned the temperature down just a little bit because the Twin Cities Marathon is Sunday. It's one of the largest urban marathons, one of the most beautiful because you run through the fall color. And those runners like it a little cold. So it's going to be perfect temperatures for them. Because it's going to start off at about high 30s, low 40s for the beginning of the race. So if you're still around through the weekend, make sure you stop by because it's truly a wonderful thing. And in between now and then, hopefully you'll take advantage of some of those new restaurants and bars and entertainment venues that we've talked about. We're pretty proud of what's going on in the city of St. Paul right now. It has changed dramatically. St. Paul is the state capital. It's kind of a government town. It had a little bit of a reputation of the streets rolling up at 5 o'clock at night. But like many cities, I'm sure many of the cities that you come from, there is a resurgence and a revitalization and an energy that's happening in our communities across this country. It is happening because we are making investments in things like transportation. Seattle's a perfect example of that. Investments in technology. Really building the kind of communities that our millennials, the people that are coming out of colleges now, want to move to and want to be a part of. And so that is the role of mayors across the country, council members, and all of you that are working hard to make sure that we have the best technologies in our communities, that we have the greatest access, and that we're building the kind of places where both people and businesses can thrive. So I just want to thank you, first of all, as the mayor for being here. but also as the president of the National League of Cities for the incredible partnership that we have between the National League and NATOA to work on behalf of communities across this country, to really make sure that we are making smart decisions, that we're advocating on behalf of our communities, and really doing what we need to do to make our communities successful. You know, it's no secret that investment in the use of technology is absolutely critical to local governments, particularly now as we're facing budget challenges across the board. It's an interesting phenomenon. As our communities are growing, there's more demand for resources, but there's also less resources to meet that demand. And so we're struggling, but technology is one of the ways that we're going to make things better for our communities. Obviously, technology affects how governments do business, but it does make a huge difference in how we create better communities for all of our residents. At its most basic level, technologically connected cities can provide a wealth of information ranging from who your elected official is, which is kind of a mixed bag for the elected official. Sometimes obscurity is not such a bad thing, especially during pothole season or when you get your tax bill. But it also talks about, through technology, we can help our citizens, our residents, understand what's happening before the council, what decisions are being made, how those decisions will affect them. It is, when you think of the uses of technology, particularly, I think potholes sometimes are a St. Paul phenomenon, but really across the country, the uses of technology so people can report instantly where potholes are, or where there's traffic issues, or there's instances that need to be addressed by local officials. It's really amazing how quickly that technology is changing the relationship between resident and elected official. Constituents want more and better access to city information. They really want to be a part of that conversation. And in St. Paul, we've had some really interesting kind of early experiments with e-democracy and how people kind of engage in the conversations around issues that affect them. Our schools demand better technology. We know that schools that are connected, that are providing access to internet technology for their students, helping their students not just learn how to play games on screens, but really use technology as an active learning device and a learning tool is critically important. But you have to have the connections to make that successful. Right now in the city of St. Paul, we are launching our school district, and we have about 39,000 children in our schools. They are slowly but surely all getting iPads as kind of the new main staple of their learning. But if it was just an iPad, it wouldn't do much good. But when that iPad gets connected to resources in our library system, when the iPad helps us track the progress of our children, when the iPad really provides learning opportunities that can't currently be accessed, then it makes a huge difference. But again, you have to have the backbone fiber system, you have to have the backbone to that whole piece to really make that successful. Our libraries are changing. They're no longer just places where people are accessing books, but going to get online to learn about what jobs are available, what benefits they can get, how they can access different things, and how they can learn, quite frankly, skills that will help them get those jobs that they can find. Our hospitals and the medical industry is a huge part of the city of St. Paul's economy. Our largest private employers are in hospitals. We have you can't throw a rock from here without hitting a major medical facility, which is a really wonderful thing, but they demand the latest in technologies. Robust telecommunication services are key to meeting all of these needs across the board, and the ability to drive all this innovation lies in the hands of local elected officials and all of you that make the job of the local elected official possible. In the state of Minnesota, we've launched a Minnesota border-to-border broadband development program. This program was just signed into law this past May. It provides $20 million in grants to fund the build-out of infrastructure and to promote the expansion of broadband services to areas of the state that have been unserved or underserved for many, many years. I remember years ago I was dealing with an issue where up in northern Minnesota they were talking about cable access and internet access and I'm trying to think of the name. Obviously, I'm proving I'm not a technology expert, and this has been many, many years ago, but kind of what service was available, if you actually laid cable, how difficult that was going to be through Granite up in northern Minnesota, and the wireless technology hadn't been developed sufficiently. But people wanted to have access to technology so that they could continue to do their jobs, work from northern Minnesota, and that became a huge issue. So this initiative that was launched to really provide service to all areas of the state of Minnesota, I think is critically important. It's going to help businesses, the cooperatives, the nonprofits, local units of government move the state forward, meeting the broadband goals and promote continued economic growth in all four corners of the state of Minnesota. The key investment by the state also underscores the importance of the role of communities and the role that they play in ensuring their residents have adequate high-speed internet service. FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler, who I think you're going to hear from tomorrow, if I understand correctly, supports the community broadband and understands the idea it's critical to ensure local needs have the option, local communities have the option to meet their needs with local solutions. And I'd like to express my thanks for his support of this initiative. Additionally, we understand the importance of local franchising PEG channels. We have 20 PEG channels within an hour of downtown St. Paul. We have a couple. We have one across the street. We have one just down the block a little bit. We have three really just within a stone's throw of here. And these become incredibly important networking opportunities and learning opportunities for everyone in our community. I'd like to think that St. Paul is more advanced. You know, Garrison Keillor says that, you know, in Minnesota all the men are strong, the women are good looking, and the children are above average. And we like to think, since St. Paul is the place where Garrison Keillor broadcasts Prairie Home Companion, that makes St. Paul even a little bit more above average than the rest of the state. But really, it's across the country. Things are happening, and we really appreciate the work that the NLC is doing to help promote this, but also what local communities are doing. Last August, the NLC and our partners submitted comments to the FCC in the Wilson case. In those comments, we noted many of the great examples of technological innovations in cities across the country. I know that many of you are familiar with these examples. For instance, Danville, Virginia, a significant digital divide in the community made it difficult to attract the types of industry that would sustain development in the region. They had one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. But today, the city's investment in broadband has turned the page and has helped attract and retain national and international jobs. Longmont, Colorado is creating the first municipally owned fiber optic broadband network of its kind in the state. The pilot phase has already been proven to be immensely successful and beneficial to the community in their ability to respond to emergency, just basically putting together emergency response plans, allowing the city to collect vast amounts of data to keep their citizens up to date and connect with the latest information. Santa Monica, California has built a fiber network which has lowered costs for telecommunications, generating economic benefits, and creating and retaining new businesses. And of course, many of you are familiar with the Kansas City, the Google Fiber Initiative that has brought the public and private sectors together with their gigabit connections. These are just a few of the examples of communities across the country that are doing amazing things, really thinking forward, understanding what the needs of the communities are going to be years from now, and ultimately understanding how the connections between technology and citizens' demands are going to drive growth in the economy for their cities for years and years to come. So we just appreciate all of you here to discuss these critical issues. On behalf of the National League of Cities, we're going to continue to be a partner with NATOA. We want to make sure that we continue to be advocates on behalf of our communities and support the work that you do to make sure that all of our communities have the resources that they need. We'll continue to build better, long-lasting partnerships and relationships. And again, you know, this is an interesting time in this country because we're all frustrated by what's happening in Washington, D.C., or I should say what's not happening in Washington, D.C. It is a frustrating place to look at sometimes. But the fact of the matter is what's happening on the local level in cities across this country, cities large and small, in the north, in the south, in the east, in the west, across this country. And it's one of the great things I've had a chance to do as president of the National League of Cities is to see what's going on in communities. Things are happening on the local level because our residents demand it. They understand what needs to be done. Our companies and our community, our corporations understand what needs to be done and are demanding that we take action. And we don't have the luxury on the local level to say we're not going to do anything, we're just going to argue and bicker. We are actually making progress. Our communities are getting stronger. Our residents are being supported. Our children are learning in different ways. And so much of that is the responsibility and thanks to all of you who are making this happen. So continue to do great work, continue to fight on behalf of our cities, and we look forward to a long and continued partnership between the National League of Cities and NATOA, and welcome to St. Paul. Don't be shy, get your credit cards out, call if you have to, get an extension of your credit limit. There's lots of great places to shop that aren't called the Mall of America, but the fact of the matter is we love to have you here and come back anytime. Make sure you, this never used to be said by a St. Paul mayor, hop on the Green Line and check out Minneapolis. It's not such a bad city either. Thank you very much.
That's it. So our concurrent sessions will begin at 9:30. Legal and policy is right next door, and all the PEG programming programs are downstairs. So see you back in here at lunchtime. Thanks.